What other
I mean, the
rosters?
good thing about this one is this one immediately looks like it can be an LPL contender. And then from the LPL, we'll know, like, if those players play well, then it can be everything, mate. It can be a team that can
And
challenge for
please,
world. Here's the thing. To me, on paper, it probably shouldn't be number one. But this reminds me a little bit. Look, admittedly, they had some flaws. But if you think about how top esports was last year, like, if they were really good, they had the chance to be the best. But it wasn't certain they would be. I'd say it's more in that vein. It could be awesome, could work out, could also just be okay. We'll see. But it's definitely exciting is the key thing for me. And especially what I love about this roster is it basically takes a few players. This is what they do in this roster, Monty, is exactly what we just complained about LEC not doing. It takes a bunch of players who were great players or very good in past seasons and tries to reclaim them with a new lineup. So I actually think it's a very interesting remix too. Like, they haven't taken too many other people's players. Like, yeah, you're taking Gala and Mako, but that's it. You haven't like robbed a whole other squad. There's still other squads can be built. So that's also what I think is quite cool about this LPL offseason is there's so much talent available. Tons of people can get good squads, mate. It's not like there's just two people fighting over the same guy. Like, there's some bangers in this one. Like, I'll give you another one. Like, an obvious one to me is I don't, in general, because I knew Ruler was leaving JDG, I was like, right, well, that's it for JDG then. Forget about him, right? Like, their pivot's even quite interesting, mate. I actually think that angle's approach. People don't know. In theory, JDG is going to take Arle from EDG, who was good, by the way. He's a cow top laner. They're taking Jun, who's obviously no longer required by BLG. Spoiler, he almost won fucking Worlds. He was like one fake Galileo player from winning fucking Worlds. And they have Scout as mid lane, who, remember, was 2-time MVP 2 years ago and was still pretty fucking good this year. Then they have Pace, who, by the way, I'll just be a dick to say this. Wolf had as the MVP of LCK. So I just say that because no one else picked him up. I was also very highly rated over the last few years. Obviously, won MSI, etc. And then they have Missing, who was obviously really good when he was at Rue. Like, bro, that's a pretty fucking out of nowhere. Again, you've looked around, and remember, a bunch of these aside from Scout and Piers, Ali and Jun potentially aren't even like the hottest prospects. Like, this is a pretty interesting put together. I think it's even good. You want to know what's funny, Monty? You know, I'm obviously a Piers critic. Bro, he's in the perfect team. Just allow Ali those carry games when he wants them. Scout's the man anyway with the macro. Bro, Piers this is actually a really good roster for Piers, I think. I actually think he sort of found a good spot. I was worried when those rumors where he was going to try and be like a carry of KT or some shit. Like, that was disturbing because I don't think that's his strength. I think he could actually do a Piers style play in this team and be good, man. This looks like a good roster.
It feels pretty solid, and you know what's weird about this JDG roster, Thorin. Now clearly the rumor is this is a rumored roster, guys.
Yes,
but the rumor is that they've officially released Shear and Flandre, and what's weird about that is okay. So Flandre, all right, he's a world's champion. He's a tested veteran. It wasn't that he played badly. It's just that Shear probably was world rookie of the year this year. Milky Way clearly.
I put this out on Twitter. That's one area already where the league awards missed. They did Rookie of the Year, Monty, and they have fuckers like Massa on there and like fucking, you know, people. Put Shear on there, you fucking idiot. Are you fucking kidding me? Because they had 6 nominees, Monty, and Shear didn't even make the list. Bro, LP. Cajal, you aren't beating those allegations. You're just an LCK fan, mate. What are you talking about? What is this? What the fuck is this, bro? What is this?
What is this? I think. You know, I think when it comes to Shear,
there's clearly something going on with that guy. We speculated about the age or something, but there's something weird going on because he should have been in that team anyway this year, sorry. And then it is absurd that you'd let him go because Monty, he looks like one of the fucking future prospects to be one of the best players in the LPL. Like, this is like letting the Shy go before he like finally snapped and became insane. I mean, like, this guy looks
everything about Shear this year was weird. Sure. I mean, he was good right out of the gate, right? But he wasn't great. But he basically became great over the course of the summer split. He was incredibly good. And then all of a sudden, he was just benched for the playoffs in favor of Flandre. And like I said, my personal tinfoil hat conspiracy theory, and I want to make this clear, the evidence is my own eyes looking at Shear.
I've got an angle for you on this. Go on.
So I want to be extra clear.
Of course.
This isn't one of those times where I'm like, hey guys, I think this, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I'm being very clear. I know nothing about this. The only evidence is my eyeballs looking at Shear and thinking, this kid is not 17 years old.
Here's my problem, Monty. Here's my problem. That's actually what I will build my meta theory of why he isn't on JDG. Because here's the problem, Monty. If I signed a potential like one-day superstar player, really talented player, and he's really good in the server, but then I find out like, we're doing that thing again, aren't we, that we sometimes do in this region. He's not actually 17, is he? I can't use him at Worlds. And they go, I'll admit he's not 17. And you go, it's okay, though. What I'll do is I'll test him. And I've got Flandre, who's a veteran and won Worlds. I'll just use him temporarily. I'll blood him in. And then what I'll do is, it's okay, for 2025, he'll be in the main roster. And then in the off-season of 2025, they come to you, 2024, they come to you and go, I only told you he isn't 17. And you're like, well, wait a minute, what? It's like, and he might be like 15, bro, or 14. Like, that's what I think could be. Yeah. I think it's because if you think about it, if there's already a market and people sort of like fudging the numbers, then the way to be even more aggressive is fudge it even more. And if it turns out he can't play for like 2 years, because that's the problem, Monty. Here's what gives it away. The giveaway, in my opinion, is this. It's not that JDG doesn't want him. Nobody wants him.
Yeah.
That's the problem right there, Monty. It'd be another squad, like a minimum, by the way, bro. This is what like anyone's legend would gamble. You know what I mean? Like a smaller squad would gamble. The fact that he's not going anywhere is what makes me think like there's some reason he can't play League of Legends, bro. This guy's too good not to be playing League of Legends.
So
come on.
The reason why I have this conspiracy theory is because Tencent obviously runs LPL, and Tencent probably doesn't give a shit if he's 14 or 15. But you'll notice the instant he dropped out of the main roster was when they hit LPL playoffs. And by the way, the timing of when teams have to apply for visas for international events, particularly Chinese teams, is very eerily close. And the way that these rosters work is that when you have a possibility of going for Worlds, so basically all of the teams in the LPL playoffs would have had to have applied for visas to visit Europe for Worlds this year. And so my theory is that they couldn't actually do this because then Riot HQ would be able to look at Shear's passport and see that he's not of age to be playing. And so they were basically forced to run Flandre in playoffs. I mean, they could have run Shear in playoffs and just not send him to Worlds, but I think they were thinking to themselves, well, we might as well just play Flandre because he's going to be the guy we're playing at Worlds anyway. Again, this is entirely my own conspiracy theory. And then that's why Shear wasn't in the roster. And to your point, Thorin, it is extremely suspicious that JDG spent this year very obviously developing Shear as a player, only for Shear to no longer be on this roster and for them to sign Ale instead, which, as you say, I think implies that he's not going to be eligible next year as well. Yep. And even if Worlds is in China next year, guys, which it is, okay, I still think Riot HQ has to approve players to go to Worlds, which is why this isn't going to happen, right? Nice. And also, if they go to MSI, it would be another problem because that's going to be taking place in Canada. So I think that this is an issue with his age, if I had to guess, because there is no, unless he was a total piece of shit behind the scenes, right? And he was completely impossible to work with. He's the Adam of China. I don't think you would get rid of a player this promising that has had this good development. It makes absolutely no sense on its face.
Even if I knew he only becomes eligible for like 2026, you'd just sign him to the 3-year contract and bench him, wouldn't you? Or put him in your LDL team or some shit. You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't let him go. You know, like I say, you have to understand, guys. If you haven't watched, this really is like having an early glimpse of like the Shy or something. You never let that player go. He's going to go win everything in some other squad. But I tell you what, I do let him go, Monty. If he can't play the LPL like for real for 3 years or whatever, like you can go. Tell you what, see ya. I'll worry about that. Like 3 years is a lifetime. You know what I mean? Like. Because you know what I mean? This all just, even though we're purely speculative, it's all purely, we have zero inside info. Our theory just makes more sense than whatever the reality is. Like, no one's even, that's the worst thing, Monty. No one's even giving us a fake story. We're not even getting into that angle on why. No one's even said anything. How is this a thing? How can you play a player, he looks good, and then he doesn't play anymore, you just don't even address it? Like, what? Can I know why? Can I even have a lie? Can you just lie to me, please? This is how you know I've been in the League of Legends riot system. Just lie to me. Just please tell me those sweet, sweet lies. Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies.
And I think he can play on a team that doesn't have international ambitions, Thorin, but it's pretty clear from the past several years.
Send him to Brazil. Go on, you're off
no,
you go, mate.
In the LPL. I don't think he could play in Brazil because they would check
okay.
his passport. But, you know, if he's going to be on some like garbage version of RNG, or does it really matter? If he's on Ultra Prime, does it matter? No. But JDG has clearly been gunning for big international performances. Obviously, last year they did that with the super team that was close to Golden Roading. This year, they still put together a very competitive roster. And as we're looking at their roster right now, which Ole's a great player, right? Jasun is coming off a very strong Worlds performance. Scout in the mid lane is huge. And by the way, I heard in the offseason through my contacts that JDG was going after Chovy and couldn't get him. So they were clearly trying to spend money there.
Also, they were one of the people suggested they were also going for Zeus.
Possibly, yeah. I don't know about that one, but yeah,
But
I mean,
this just looks like a very shrewd. What's cool about this, Monty, is not only does this look like a shrewdly built roster, but as you just pointed out, based on the rumors, this isn't even their first set of choices. They just did a really good job with their big board, Monty. Look at who they end up getting. Like, if this was their pivot, and it looks like it was their pivot, by the way, on like 2 or 3 positions, they still ended up with a pretty good fucking squad. Like, for me, on paper, this roster can come straight in and be like the 4th best roster or something. Like, it's going to be like a quality squad.
And clearly, Pays was a domino that was waiting to fall because if Ruler doesn't go to Gen G, Pays is going to probably stay on Gen G, right? So Pays falling into their lap, I think, is quite lucky. And like you say, he doesn't have to be a primary carry on this roster, especially with the versatility, as you pointed out, of Jasun being able to play AD carries. It feels like a really good spot for Pays. And
so implied Pays is getting fucking paid, bro. This is, assume at this point, since he couldn't be in the LCK, he's getting fucking money, man. This must be where he's getting a nice big contract, you know.
I mean, this JDG roster is actually like pretty fun. And Scout will be there too to kind of provide the cultural / language bridge from Korean to Chinese. So it's not going to be as isolating for a young player like Pays. Missing being there, I think, is probably going to be good as well. So JDG, like, looking on the up and up. And, Thorin, typically, I'm not roster leak guy, even if I know. But I will say, I will drop one nug this episode, which is that I've heard that CV Max is coaching this team.
Right, you know what? Fuck it, I'm all in. JDG is the future of League of Legends. This is going to be the surprise finalist of the spring split, ladies and gentlemen, playing against BLG. I'm all in. I don't even care. Here's the sad thing, Monty. Do you know why I love that so fucking much? Because, bro, CV Max is another Korean. I'm going to do a whole series on this. There are Koreans who need to get the fuck out of Korea. If you are an individual who is a creative thinker and an iconoclast, it is stupid to stay in Korea. Korea is the establishment. Everything they do is institutional, and it's all about like the fucking like greater approach of like how you cog in the machine. Someone like CV Max is trying to be, I'm going to be ridiculous here, like some Leonardo da Vinci visionary of League. By the way, comparable, as I always say, to like how Reaper was back in the day. Like, if you're too out there as a thinker, you're just not going to fit their system, mate. You could always be like the odd one out. So to me, CV Max, it's showed in the LCK. You're not really welcome, mate. Like, no one wants you on a top team. By the way, I even personally infer it that his whole problem with people like Sword and the players in Griffin was actually more the idea that he isn't the traditional Korean, like just your boss. He was actually like a super passionate guy who probably just got fucking super into it by LS with the stories of him banging the desk in Cloud9 or whatever. So I love CV Max. I agree he's incredibly idiosyncratic and he has certain angles where he goes off on a mad one. But Bill Belichick's probably the greatest coach of all time. Seems like a massive arsehole outside of social settings, right? That's one of the best things about these guys. So I think in the LPL, he was always perfect for that league. Like, if you don't know, by the way, guys, you either hate this guy or you think he's a draft genius. Like, or an idiot savant. You can pick which is the one. But I think he's such an interesting coach. And this lineup of talent's just really interesting me. Like, what's he going to do with this squad? This could do so much.
Well, I also think for CV Max, that who's been on a lot of development rosters over time, like, this is an interesting test where he will be handed the keys to a lot of elite tier, worlds winning or almost worlds winning players. And it could be, I'm going to be interested to see if he can do something, with this.
It's a banger, isn't it? Yeah. And also, if you take players like Jasun and Pays, they're not the perfect player who's a totally well-rounded guy. So there's a lot you can also get like your stock up from. If these players suddenly look like, if Jasun's like an MVP candidate now, Monty, or Pays is like a dominant ADC, he's going to get a lot of credit too as a coach, like for molding these players. So I think it's a bagger. I hope that move does happen. It's just a rumor you heard at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay. That'll be a banger move. That'll be a banger.
Like I said, normally not that guy, but I'll be that guy this one time. I
think about it. If you look at the
other
LCK
people to break it
teams,
most of the time.
if you look at the LCK teams, Monty, almost every single LCK team is actually incredibly boring with how they recruit coaching staff. They just recruit former top players, and you can even cycle them in and out on splits. Fans don't even notice. So it makes it seem like it's just a system and it's not an individual having massive impact, just someone within there. So this is how we do. It's almost like that whole thing, like this is the Patriot way or whatever, like, but I don't get the feeling in the LCK they want these like visionary coaches with big personalities, etc. So I think the LPL is the perfect place for this guy. I also think if this team doesn't work out, there's plenty of other LPL teams you can go to as well, mate. It
does seem like LPL is a better fit. It's a better fit for CV Max.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or be a pleb and don't.